Hello, Miss Lasmi. Thank you for your time. Now, I would like to answer the question from the mid-semester examination. So, first of all, let me introduce myself first. My name is Made Desianti. My absent number is 23. First question is the difference between data and information. So, I will explain about definition of data first. Okay, data are a collection of raw facts obtained from observation, recording, or research in the form of number, symbol, text, image, or sound that have not been processed. So they do not yet have a clear meaning. Data are usually used as the basic material in a process activity to produce useful information. Without further processing, data are only a collection of facts that cannot be fully used for decision making. For the example of data is PT Maju Terus, April 18, 2020, 100,000 rupiah. And the next is information. So, definition of information is the result of processed data that has been organized, analyzed, and interpreted so that it has meaning, is easy to understand, and is useful for the receiver. Information is used to help people make decisions, solve problems, or understand certain situations. And good information should be accurate, clear, relevant, and timely in order to provide maximum benefit. For example of information, invoice date April 18, 2020, customer name PT Maju Terus, quantity 5, price 100,000 rupiah. And the next is for a clearer understanding, I will explain about a comparison of the difference between data and information. So comparison aspect 1 is from. In data is a number, symbol, text, or observation result. And in information is explanation calculation from data. And next comparison aspect, meaning in data is does not yet have a clear meaning, and information already has meaning and is easy to understand. Comparison aspect process in data is has not been processed, and in information has been processed and analyzed. In comparison aspect function, in data used as basic material, in information is used as a basis for this decision making. Comparison aspect usefulness in data is cannot be used directly. In information is can be used to help work or decision making. And the last comparison aspect is characteristic. In data is random and simple, and in information is more organized and structured. And the next is an explanation of the production cycle DFD along with example of potential issues and their solution. So the first step is production design, which includes a list of raw materials and a list of operational to produce finished products. The step has threat and controls, including the threat is poor production design resulting in increased costs, and for the controls is production cost accounting analysis arising from product design choice, and warranty and repair cost analysis. And the second step is planning and scheduling, which is carried out in accordance with customer orders. Next, a purchase request for raw material is made from the expenditure cycle. Since this take also requires labor, the hire management or payroll cycle provides available labor to the planning and scheduling function. This stage generate production order, raw material requirement, and transfer cards. The risks and control associated with this stage include for the trade is over and under production or targets, and for the control is production planning system, review and approval of production schedules and other. And the last is a restriction of access to production order and production schedule. And the third stage is the production operation, which involves work in process, is a concept used to describe the flow of production costs from the production area to the next. This stage generates time cards, transfer cards, and raw material requests. And for the trades is theft of inventory, and for the control is physical access controls, documentation of all inventory movements, and registration of access to inventory master data. And the second is theft of fixed asset. For the control is physical inventory of all fixed asset. And next is restricting physical access to fixed asset. Next is maintaining detailed records of fixed asset, including their disposals. And the next trait is poor performance. For the control is training, performance, and performance reports. And the next trait is suboptimal investment in a fixed asset. For the control is proper approval of fixed asset execution, including the use of requests for proposal to escalate competitive bids. And the next trait is loss of inventory or fixed asset due to fire or other disasters. For the control is physical security or e.g. fire sprinkler system and insurance. And the last is disposition of operation. For the control is backup. And the fourth stage is cost accounting, which calculates the cost incurred to process finished goods. This counts of raw material costs, labor costs, and overhead costs. After calculating this cost, the cost of goods manufactured is determined and a report is generated. This stage produce finished goods, and the revenue cycle can be used to estimate sales volume. This stage generates time card, transfer card, and raw material requisition. This stage involves risks and control, including for the first trait is incurred cost data, for the control is search data automation, and data processing integrity control. For the next trait is inappropriate location of overhead costs. For the control is time-driven activity-based costing or TDABC. And the last is misleading report. For the control is innovative performance matrix or e.g. throughput. And the next explanation is about analysis of internal control weaknesses in UMKM ABC expenditure cycle. So based on the case analysis of the accounting information system within the company's expenditure cycle, several internal control weaknesses were identified and evaluated using the COSO framework. In general, these weaknesses counter on the lack of clear segregation of duties with standardization of operational documents and a poor payment verification system. If left unaddressed, this weak governance poses further risks ranging from budget inefficiencies and bad accounting records to the potential for financial fraud. Okay, and the next is explanation about analysis of internal control weaknesses in UMKM ABC is expenditure cycle. For the first finding from case is Diana prepare purchase order and also record accounting transaction. For the internal control weaknesses is lacks of segregation of duties, and the causal component is control environment, and the risk is fraud and recording errors due to one person handling multiple key functions, and the recommended control is spread duties, purchasing, prepare PO, accounting record transaction. And the next finding from case is no formal purchasing requisition or PR document exercise. From the internal control weakness is lack of initial purchase documentation. For the causal component is control activities. For the risk is uncontrolled and unnecessary purchasing. And from the recommend control is monetary PR approved before issuing PO. And the next finding from case is raw material purchases are made without formal PR. So internal control weakness is an understanding that purchasing procedure. For the causal component is control activities. For the risk is over purchasing or unnecessary purchases. And for the recommend control is implement structure purchasement SOP or PR PO invoice flow. And the next finding from case is the cashier is unaware that an invoice has already been paid. For the internal control weakness is poor communication of payment status. For the causal component is information and communication. For the risk is double payment. And for the recommended control is implement paid or unpaid invoice tracking system. And the next finding from case is invoice number SPS 108/Roman numeral 3/2026 was paid twice on March the 8th and March the 14th, 2026. For the internal control weaknesses is lack of payment verification control. For the causal component is control activities. For the risk is financial loss due to duplicate payment, and for the recommended control is invoice verification system with paid stamp or digital marketing. Next is some petty cash receipts are not signed by recipients. For the internal control weaknesses is weak documentation control. For the causal component is control activities. For the risk is unverifiable or fictitious expense. And for the recommended control is require recipient signature and supporting documents. And the next finding from the case is expense are recorded only as operational expense without detail. For the internal control weaknesses is incomplete financial information. For the causal component is information and communication. For the risk is poor transparency and audit difficulty. And for the recommended control is require detailed expense classification and documentation. And the next is all administrative staff can edit Excel files. For the internal control weakness is no access restriction in accounting system. For the causal component is control activities. For the risk is data manipulation and unauthorized change. And for the recommend control is role-based access control and file protection. And the next is no data backup system exercise. For the internal control weakness is lack of risk mitigation for data loss. And for causal component is risk segments. For the risk is data loss due to error or system failure. And for the recommended control is regular backup system or code or local backup. And the next is a no change log or audit trial exercise. For the internal control weakness is no tracking of data change. For the causal component is monitoring. And for the risk is cannot trace modification or fraud. And from recommended control is implement audit trial or log system. And the next finding from the case is a petty cash disparity of 4,850,000 rupiah was found. For the internal control weaknesses is lack of routine cash inspection. For the causal component is monitoring. For the risk is undetected errors of misuse of cash. And for the recommended control is daily or weekly petty cash reconciliation. And the next is cashier receive invoice without verification of prior payment. For the internal control weakness is weak information flow. For the causal component is information and communication. For the risk is duplicate payment. And for the recommend control is integrated invoice status communication system. And the next is no daily cash reconciliation is performed. For the internal control weakness is weak cash monitoring. For the causal component is monitoring. For the risk is cash difference are not detected early. And for the recommended control is mandatory daily cash reconciliation. And the last is business owner does not regularly supervise disbursement process. For the internal weakness, for the internal control weakness is weak management oversight. For the causal component is control environment. For the risk is fraud and errors go unnoticed. And for the recommended control is regular review and approval by management or owner. So that is all from my answer. I apologize if there were any mistake in my word or presentation. Thank you for attention. Goodbye.